Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Sunday, May the 18th, 2025, and today's topic I'm going to call Facial Expression Painting Demo. So this is where I ended up with this painting. But before we get into all of that, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. For the past 2 or 3 days, I've been working on this painting, and I'm just going to leave it. I think it's pretty much done, but I never really know. I just kind of get to the detail stage and then just kind of leave it for a while, and usually it seems like it's done. Plus, it's in my sketchbook, so it was really a study from reference. So yeah, today I wanted to fill this space right here because I am done with the sketchbook as far as I got to the last page, but there's still some like blank spaces in here. And I thought that since I was practicing this using these paint markers, so it's these Sharpie paint markers plus like regular Sharpies, I'm gonna stick with that, except this one I didn't have like a pen sketch. So today I'm going to start with a pencil and then go in like with a pen. Now a lot of times I'll kind of skip the pencil, but it's okay. Part of this is because of for people that want to use a pencil and then paint over like the ink, which I didn't do here. So, but the methodology will be similar. So yeah, if you want to follow along, it's like a demo, so it's not really a tutorial, but I'll explain like the steps and stuff. So I'm going to use reference. The thought that popped into my head was just like just drawing like kind of different facial expressions and stuff because I had been doing landscape, so I kind of wanted to do like a person or like a character. And I'm going to use a pencil, which it helps, I mean, if you want. So yeah, I just looked up some reference, and just so you know, and this is the basic look of it right here. So part of this is just for me, like just having fun, but also it might be helpful if you are either wanting some ideas or just to kind of see a demo of how, like, this is just like one way of doing this. So yeah, this is like the basic pose right here. In the figure drawing playlist, there's a lot of videos about proportion and using different methods. This is like probably like my usual kind of method. Well, especially if I have reference, I think that's what it is. If you're wanting to just kind of invent this, sometimes you need a little bit more like construction. But if you have reference, then a lot of times it's just copying the shapes. Like I can see what the shapes are. And I like using this lead holder and being loose about it. So one of the things, I almost did this video, and I'll probably do one pretty soon about like gestural sketching. So in a way, like that's what I'll kind of talk about. But then I also wanted to like do the still use these markers because it's still fresh in my mind because I've been working on them. So gestural sketching is kind of like this, like keep a loose grip. If you're using a pencil, then it gives you can erase first of all, but if you're wanting to get more into inking or like sketching with ink or like painting, like I went straight in with like paint right here, you might want to treat like the pencil as like, don't erase it, but keep it gestural, meaning like there's no like real definite, like I can go back in and like fix things, but like so if you use a pencil and then you're going to ink it, then during the inking you'll have like you can tighten up the sketch like even more. So that's kind of like the main thing, is figure out like the drawing right here. I mean, if you have to erase, then go ahead and erase it. If something is like off. And that's part of, so it's part of the practice where you can kind of tell. I mean, you have to like mess up more than succeeding, but then that's how you learn. So like a tricky part is like right here. So you can see like the angles and stuff are here, like the construction. So like that's the cheekbone right there. Like, so those are sort of like the landmarks that let you know the like the perspective and everything. So the ears are like right here, and this is from reference, so it's a little bit, I mean, it's going to be easier. Part of this is also, if you know you're going to paint it, so it's kind of, I'm going to approach it kind of like this, then the approach is a certain way also. So for example, I'm thinking about like the light and shadow. So I picked this picture. I just looked up facial expression. And I picked this because of part of it is the angle. Part of it is like the expression. Like just to, haven't really drawn this. And then part of it is the lighting. Because I am using these colors, and there's just like different ways to approach it. But I thought this sort of had a lot of interesting kind of things, forms and perspectives and stuff. So if you're going to paint it, which I am, the forms really help, and like the shapes really help. So I'm kind of anticipating like what the colors and stuff will be. So for example, like that's like a highlight. So these are highlights. So because of the technique I'm using, I'm going to use the white of the paper. That's part of the technique. So for example, like right here and right here. Again, this is because of reference, and that's why it's good to use reference, so that a lot of times these highlights, I'm not really gonna know, but if you do studies and then when you draw from imagination, which for example, it just so happens on this previous page is my little like test mini comic. So when you're drawing from imagination, sometimes you'll just draw stuff and it depends on the style. Like if it's just going to be black and white, that's how you kind of learn like different shapes that you can use. So it's kind of like this, like these highlight shapes. So I'm going to leave that as like the white of the paper. Pretty much like this side is going to be the white of the paper. And again, because I have reference, I mean, I can always just refer to the reference. And also part of it is drawing it in a way that I could understand how to draw it from imagination. So I'm not going to like do too much shading and stuff. So if I were using pencil like this, I could just go in and paint it. I'll go ahead and ink it just to see. I might use like a different coloring. I might end up using like Sharpies to go over like the marker. I'm not sure. It might bleed. I don't know. For this video, I want to get the color, like once I start painting it, I want it to get to like the sketch part. So it's good to sort of have the different stages so you know. So let's say I want to do like a pencil sketch. Then I would know, okay, well, there's your pencil sketch right there. And that's that stage. So I'm going to ink it. So you can start to tighten up some things. The sketch is actually pretty okay. So that's one thing. I was saying how the next, whatever process that you're using, it should be an improvement. So for example, if this is going to be painted and I said like that's going to be like the white of the paper, I might not outline this side. So I might just think about where like the dark areas would be. So again, because I have reference, I can kind of take a little bit more time to just go ahead and get more of these definite, like, dark shapes with the pen. And I would take my time because since I do have the pencil sketch and I also have like a reference picture that I'm looking at, I can be more definite here. So if the proportions are off, which comes from practice, which comes from practicing proportion and also just sketching and practice, that's when you'll know, like, okay, if something's off or not, or how close you really need to be to like the reference. So I'm not trying to copy exactly like the reference. So part of this is I'm just going to outline things, which is kind of a style in and of itself, by the way. Like if I were just going to ink this when you outline something. So an example is, this is actually like the bridge of the nose, but it's like the light's coming from over here. You can draw in the shadow right here, kind of like this. And then that would be like the highlight or like the light. And when you're doing this, you can kind of squint to sort of, my point is that you might not shade that. Like I usually would crosshatch or something, but like you don't have to. So yeah, you can be more definite here. And that would, and if you are going to paint it or color it like digitally or something, you would have like another pass, like another stage to tighten it up. So for example, like that's going to be the white of the paper, like for now. Like also, I'm not sure if I'm going to color in like the background. That would also give me like the shape right here. And then everything over here is kind of in shadow. So I'm going to just, again, be gestural about it. I just suggest that because when you go into detail, like it's going to tighten up anyway. Like every time you start to detail it, it'll start to tighten up. And so I'd rather be more loose to begin with. This is like the basic look of it. I might put like a little bit of these contour lines. Again, it depends on the rendering. If I were gonna do like pen and ink, I would just keep, this would still be like the sketch. I'll erase it just so you can see what I mean. So in a way, these are the darkest areas. So those are the light areas. So that's basically it. So the reflected light is right here. Which could just come from painting. It's kind of its own thing. So yeah, it's because I know I'm going to paint this, so that's why. But you just kind of have to practice, and then you'll sort of get an idea of what you need in the sketch. But there's just an approach. You could actually just ink this. So the next thing I'll do is erase it. I'll fast forward through this part. So I wouldn't rush any of this, and it depends on like the rendering technique. This would be like I erased the pencil line, so this is like the ink sketch. And unless there's something like I really want to fix, then I'll pretty much be alright. It depends on what I'm drawing. Like since this isn't really trying to be like a specific character, I'm not too worried about it. I'm kind of anticipating when I paint it, like what I might need. I'll probably color in the background. You can also start to accentuate like certain shapes at this stage. So yeah, don't rush through any of it. Make sure that if you were at the pencil stage, you're happy with that. And then if you're inking it kind of like this, like you could have skipped the inking. These are just examples, different ideas. You can approach it a few different ways. If you were just using pen, I would have like maybe started shading. So the next thing is basically like light and dark. And I started outlining. That's what this is. And so it's just a matter of figuring out like what approach you want to take. If I'm going to kind of go for this look, sort of like the painterly look, these don't have like that many colors, which is okay because I'll probably use Sharpies. Again, this is just kind of a demo of like a process. I'm going to go with this orange color, which is kind of transparent and then like kind of light enough to where I can go in with like a darker color. Like that's the idea. I'll be kind of loose with it, but at the same time also think about, because I have the ink, so I can be a little bit tighter with it. So I'm going to pretend that this is the dark, which it is for like a black and white like ink sketch. So this would actually be the darker value. Again, this is an experiment, but it can also work as an actual painting. So eventually the ink lines most likely won't be there. So part of this is because I have like the ink sketch, but I also have the reference. But you'll see that even if you're using reference, like it's good to know like the drawing. rather than, because what happens is, and this is just again just from like my own kind of experience with doing this, what happens is that if the painting starts going too much away from it, which it can, I mean, like that's part of it also, but like if you need to troubleshoot it, like if something starts to look off about it, then if you don't have like kind of a process, then you're probably gonna have to redo it. Like that's just been my kind of experience. So for this like reflected light area, I'm just gonna go like this. So in a way, like this lets me know that there's like reflected light, because this actually won't be like the dark color. I'm gonna go in with probably like a marker or something to make it look darker. Again, some of this is also just sketchbook like studies and stuff. Because once you lay in, like block in the color like this, then it'll be like its own thing, like its own like color sketch basically. So yeah, like back over here, I kind of want to still see some of these ink lines so that I know like what I'm looking at. So for example, like that'll be like shadow, like that'll be darker. And if you were using ink, you could just ink this. Again, this is like a demo. So for example, to keep it kind of simple, and also for like the color harmony, for the background, you could do this. Although you'll probably change the color, but it'll have like a color harmony. So same with this. So I knew I was gonna like cover up like this side because of the light anyway. So I'll begin to do that. And yeah, like the paint strokes could end up being like part of the picture, so kind of keep that in mind, like the look of the paint stroke. So this is basically the shadow for now. Same with this, like the ear, it's gonna be darker. Same with the hair. It's just for me to know. But I mean, it may be part of the final. That's what I mean about being gestural enough and also painting it in a certain way, because you may not have to do that much more. And then some of these lines can kind of be painted over. So for this particular, so the white is also a color, by the way. That's as if you went in with like white paint and did that, but it's like the white of the paper. So for this next part, I'm actually going to use, if I want it to look like very painterly and like kind of graphic and stuff, these colors are pretty like bold and graphic looking, kind of like this kind of thing. If you want it to be a little bit more subtle, you've got these Sharpies, kind of like these multicolor Sharpies. In fact, there's like a gray Sharpie. So here's like a gray one. Kind of curious. So I'm going to use this just to see. So yeah, I'm going to do a Sharpie. I'm going to check this other side. So this is on the other page. I'm not too, it'll bleed through, but I'm not too worried about it. So I will use this, like it looks pretty cool, so, but I'll use it like kind of sparingly. Like I can go darker than this. So for now, I'll just go ahead and use it for like the dark areas and just be gradual about it, as I like to say. Just kind of build it up gradually. Part of this is so that I can know like where the different like the dark areas, and then also you can see what it looks like on the, it's like a little bit transparent. So that's where the color harmony comes in. And yeah, I'm being deliberate with like the paint strokes or like the pen strokes, because some of that may show up in the finished painting. So yeah, these are just some ideas. So this is just like a method. I wouldn't worry about like the core shadow just yet. I'm just looking at the like the darkest areas. And you can actually get pretty okay picture this way. I just bought like a multi-pack of these Sharpie colors. So there's like this one, and it depends on how subtle you want to be. You can just gradually build up the, like if you think there's like a little bit of purple, like kind of like this, I would just kind of experiment. So you can add more detail that way. You can see that this purple is pretty similar to the gray, but since we're using color, it will also like affect it. So initially we worked from like the light to the dark, or like the mid-tone, and now it's like I'm kind of building like the dark outwards. And then with each pass, I will sharpen the shapes. So for example, like some of the hair might already be like this orange color, so I'm not going to, I might just leave it. Like I have this color like of the Sharpie, so I just want to see what that looks like. So the values pretty similar, but I may not want this to be dark. It might just be more saturated, because it looks like that's what it's doing, is it's making it look more saturated, but it's also giving me more of the like the shape, that kind of thing. But let's say that I want to, like I could paint over that if I don't want the there's also the technique, so I can do this. That's like one way to get like blending. So yeah, these are just ideas. I kind of knew I was going to use the Sharpies anyway, but even then, I mean, there's like different approaches to it. But you can see that there's like a certain look to that. I wanted this to be a little bit more like maybe comic book or like cartoony. The next one would be just developing the light and dark, which is what I started to do. And yeah, if you have like reference, then you can just keep developing the light and dark. But there's already light and dark here. It just depends on how you want to render it. Let me know if you have any questions. I might do like another video. Sometimes I like to just leave this just so I can see like the steps. But yeah, that'll be it for today's daily sketching routine. I want to thank you for joining me. And if you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.